Hello again to all our viewers out there. Welcome again to another segment of 10 Questions with Jamie, getting to know the people of Asbury. We're sitting here with Rose Cowie today. Rose, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And as many of you guys know, what we're doing here is we're having a small discussion with people at Asbury in hopes to get to know them a little bit better. And today, after our question and answer period, we're going to hope to get to know Rose a little bit better as well. So Rose, again, thank you for joining us. I would like to start with, where were you born? Was it in this area?
I was born in rural Eastern Ontario in the township of North Granville. The youngest of 9 children. My parents had 9 kids in 12 and a half years. So,
Busy,
and I'm the
busy.
baby. So
Yeah,
you know what comes with all that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm the baby in the family too, so I
Yeah,
can
you
relate. Yeah,
get both a dose of overprotectiveness from your older siblings, plus, in my case, not a lot of baby pictures because they'd worn out the camera by the time I came along.
yeah, yeah. Well, it would have been a busy household, I'm sure, Rose.
It was a very small house too.
Okay.
Small house with jam packed with us in it, and we always drove Volkswagens. So go figure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, good. Well, they're dependable, right? And good on
They
gas.
are.
So, yeah. Well, Rose, thanks for sharing that with us. And I was wondering, to go along with that, what would be your favorite type of music? Do you have one that stands out above the rest?
I like pop music and especially 60s, 70s, 80s, although I'm not really fond of a lot of the modern stuff that's out there, although I must say Collective Soul is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, good. Yeah, yeah. I listened to a lot of that genre growing up when I was younger as well. My parents were into that kind of music as well, and so I'm familiar with it to some degree. Yeah, very good. Speaking of growing up in childhood and having a lot of siblings, would you happen to have a favorite childhood memory, Rose?
I do. Now, we lived on a big rural property. I can't remember whether we had 100 acres or 200, but it was big.
Hmm.
And so we had not a lot of neighbors
Okay.
and a lot of wide open fields. And in the fields, we had wild strawberries that grew every year. I would go out with a little bowl and I would just pick strawberries to fill my bowl, bring them back to the house, dump milk and sugar on them, and have strawberries and milk.
Nice.
That's one. Also, on our property, we had these natural sand hills,
Yep.
and they would be about the height probably of the Conlin Farm Hill, but they were natural, just
Oh,
sand dunes in
yeah.
the middle of the bush. And
Wow.
we would toboggan down those in the winter. And the idea was to not kill yourself hitting all the pine trees that grew along the sides.
Uh,
It was so much fun as a kid living there.
it sounds like such a fun time and perfect for a young child. In lots to do and lots of nature and wilderness and lots of adventures, I'm sure. Yeah, I can definitely see why you picked that as as one of your favorite memories, Rose. Again, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing it with us. Again, about preferences here, fiction or nonfiction. When it comes to books, movies, things of that nature, would you have one that you favor over the other, Rose?
For sure. I love fiction, both in books and movies. I love both. And I guess that's probably why Christ used parables to teach so much, because I think we all love stories,
Hmm.
and there's so many life lessons in those fictional stories. Like there's usually a moral hidden in there, or there's something that you can pick out, you can relate to in your own life, and I love those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always like reading or listening to the parables too, that the Lord, I always find them fascinating, and in being able to relate them in any generation. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, going back down memory lane, Rose, as a small child, do you recall anything that, as you were a young child growing up, that you just wanted to be when you got older?
Well, there was a point there where I thought it'd be awesome to be a ballerina.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
However, there was no money for any kinds of lessons or anything like that. So I just borrowed a book from the library, and it had some of the initial steps. So I'd pretend I was doing that at home.
yeah.
And since I couldn't do that, I picked the second best occupation, I guess, being an administrative assistant.
Okay, yeah.
And
And
I just dance at home.
yeah, yeah. Now, how long have you how long you been in that employ? Basically, your
All
whole life?
my working career, other than 6 years I took off to stay home and look after my rug rats.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, good, neat. Right, that's good.
yeah.
Again, thanks for sharing. And yeah, it's. I'm sorry to hear about the childhood dream of not becoming a ballerina, but I'm glad the next second best thing came true for you. So that's good. Yeah,
Well, my dad always said I was a worm squirm when I was little. One of the things in the Volkswagen was it had the radio had these little push buttons, and I
yeah,
was always wanting to reach out and push those buttons.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
get to type, and I push a lot of buttons now.
Well, there you go, and get paid for it, which is nice, right? So
That's
good.
right.
Um, now, but moving on, I would want to. I'm interested now, actually, to be honest with you. And what if you could choose anything for a day, Rose? Now, money and time are not factors in this.
Mhm.
What would you want to do?
Well, I'm suffering from one child who flew far from the nest.
Hmm.
So I would grab a big truck
Yep.
and I'd drive out to Calgary. I'd hog tie him and his family and throw them in the truck and move them back to Ontario because
Yeah.
they're just too far away right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We have family on the West Coast too, and it's tough.
Yeah.
Even without all the restrictions and everything else that's going on, just that distance itself can be tough at times. Yeah, I would agree with
Oh, yeah.
that. Yeah,
Well, we're coming up on 2 years since we've seen them.
yeah,
Other than, like, I mean, we technology is wonderful.
yeah,
We FaceTime with them just about every week, which is amazing. It's really wonderful,
yeah.
but it's just not the same thing as being together.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. Now, Rose, uh, if you could you share with us, a favorite Bible verse that maybe stick out for you? Is there one or maybe a few that stick out?
There's so many. There's so many.
Yeah.
I love John chapter 14,
Okay.
where Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through me.
Hmm.
And he also comforts his disciples and said, my peace I give you, not as the world gives, but I give you that peace
Yep.
that passes understanding. Like, that's wonderful. Colossians 1 and 2, where it talks about the majesty of Christ, how he is the image of the invisible God.
Hmm.
Um, I just love that.
Yeah.
Psalm 103 is another favorite, especially starting from verse 8, going forward, where the psalmist recites that as far as the east is from the west is as far as he's removed our sins from us. And that's just such a wonderful
Yeah.
image to know that, once Christ has forgiven you, your sins are just,
Yeah.
they're not there anymore. it's
Washed
it's
away.
wonderful.
Yeah.
um Revelation chapter 22, when we hear about the holy city and the new Jerusalem and the river of life, and how the tree is there to feed the nations,
Mhm.
that redemption is just so amazing. I love it. I can't wait to see it all.
Yeah.
And one last one, like all the scriptures that talk about the awesomeness of God.
Hmm.
And I've got one here from First Kings 19.
Okay.
right after Elijah has been fleeing from Jezebel and Ahab because they're trying to kill him, and he's so distraught. And the Lord appears to him and he says, I'm going to pass by, go up on the mountain, and I'm going to pass by. And so just want to read a little bit of that from 1 Kings 19,
Yeah.
picking it up at verse 11. The Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. So that is just so awesome about how powerful God is, the wind, the fire, the earthquake. But he used a gentle whisper to
Yeah.
reveal himself to Elijah. That's just how awesome God is.
Yes. Yes. And the strength of humbleness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can see all those, and to be honest with you, many people that have come here and participated in this, it's very difficult to come up with one
Oh,
verse just to say this is one. Now I can see some definitely have verses that stick to people personally, but by and large, how difficult a task it would be just to say this is my one and only. And
oh,
so
exactly. It's a new one every day.
yeah, of course. And in the seasons of our lives that we go through, changes what verses mean to us at a particular time as well, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing those few that you have with us today. Thank you. um, Now, Rose, I'm interested here, what or who had the biggest impact on you and your Christian journey? um, it could be one person, could be multiple, could be a group. Is
Yeah.
there anyone that stands out, Rose?
I would have to say my sister Heather.
Okay.
She invited me to attend a Bible study group.
Hmm.
Um, and it turned out that the people that were hosting it, I had actually gone to high school with. So I knew them going into it.
Hmm.
And they were really instrumental in helping me mature in my Christian walk.
Yeah.
And and then um, Asbury as well.
Yeah.
I started attending Asbury. I'm trying to think, just before I started going to that Bible study. And I was just so hungry to hear the real gospel preached
Yep.
because I hadn't been getting that.
Yeah.
And Asbury was great. And they really helped with the upbringing of our kids. Our kids were involved in youth group and Awana and
Yeah.
all those groups in the church. It was just wonderful to
Yeah.
have that support.
Yeah. It is what's such a wonderful environment at Asbury, and very welcoming, and to the new and the old, in terms of new people into the faith, and people that have grown up for many years with it as a foundation, and they're welcome the same, which is really nice to see and be a part of. There's no doubt. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Rose, for sharing that. And now, other than Jesus, because of course that would be the number one for many, from the Bible, who would you want to spend a day with, Rose?
Well, I'd have to say the Apostle Paul.
Yeah.
Um, he was so transformed
Yes.
when he met Christ that he was like totally different. And for someone who, myself, I have had a lot of fears throughout my life,
Hmm.
but Paul is just fearless.
Hmm.
He didn't care, like shipwrecks and storms and all that stuff. He was so tightly connected to the Lord that he was able to say truthfully, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. So
Hmm.
death had no fear and it
Yeah.
had no hold over him. He didn't care. He knew he was on the earth for as long as he was on it, to
Yeah.
serve the Lord, to preach the word. And he was just fearless. It would be pretty awesome to spend a day with him, I would think.
I would be right up that alley with you, Rose. He would be an individual that I would, he would be on my short list of people as well. And again, and some of the background about him is just for me connects and is so astonishing, and for the very points that you pointed out as well. Very excellent choice, Rose. Before we leave here, Rose, would you have an encouraging message that you would like to pass on to the people at Asbury? Um,
Well, I'd just like to say the people at Asbury are very wonderful people. They're loving and caring and welcoming. And I don't think that COVID has changed that at all. It's just meant that we can't really get together the same way we used to.
mhm,
And I would like to give a shout out to you and to the pastor for the innovations that you guys have done, and the technical people behind the scenes who have enabled us to still meet together
mhm.
week to week, broadcasting the service live and sometimes now recorded. Um, I think that's wonderful. You're doing a great job.
Uh, well, thank you, and I know everyone is enjoying the blessing that we have right now. God is truly, when He shuts doors, He opens other ones, and
Yeah,
obviously nobody wants to be dealing with what we're dealing with, the COVID, the restrictions, and sickness, everything else that goes on to it. But it is nice to see a rose petal or a rose stem and come from it all.
yeah.
And I know we enjoy doing it in this, and we are really looking forward to positive things and what fruit can be bore from this, and the support from everybody in the congregation and in the community is definitely a huge um, help and factor in all this as well. So we thank you guys too. So, and Rosa, I thank you for taking time out of your day to come here and share your a little bit about Rose Cowie, and certainly your encouraging message is nice to hear from everybody that's tuning in and everyone at Asbury. We appreciate that. And for all our viewers out there, thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate you guys viewing, and we appreciate bringing this to you. Everyone stay safe out there. Have a good day, and God bless. Take care.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks a lot, Rose.